few years ago, a television show captured America's imagination like never before. With a powerful style of storytelling combining outrageous plot lines, dramatic plot twists, and riveting over-the-top characters, Americans became addicted to it, with millions actually thinking it was real. Obviously, it's not. There's no way something this insane could ever actually be real. It's a fictional TV show called American Emperor. Like Succession, Game of Thrones, and Breaking Bad, all rolled into one. Each week, this podcast goes behind the scenes to break down each episode, talking to insiders and fans to bring you everything you need to know. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow. This week, is the Trump character showing signs of dementia? The other day, he started off his sentence praising Kim Jong-un, and by the time he was finished, he was praising Vladimir Putin. The only thing he seems to be able to maintain focus on is Arnold Palmer's junk.
But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. This is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to say it.
Can this guy really be trusted to run a kleptocracy? He can hardly remember where in Mar-a-Lago he hid our nation's top secrets. In all seriousness, though, who the hell is the media, or anyone for that matter, to diagnose this guy with dementia, when he's clearly showing signs of advanced syphilis? There's a difference between having dementia and being demented. And to be in cognitive decline, don't you at some point have to be in cognitive advance? Or are the damaged nerve cells at the root of dementia about to sue me for associating them with Trump? Plus, at 2 Coup, is J.D. Vance actually a Trump Trojan horse positioning himself to bump out the Trump character and take over MAGA? Who's lurking in the background to Julius Caesar, the mad Emperor Trump? His VP? His son? A double cheeseburger? It's a dizzying episode with storylines introduced and resolved at a frantic pace. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow.
I want to protect the women of our country. Well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Christopher Lansing. I'm joined by author, filmmaker, and pop culture critic Tom Robb. We got a lot to get to this week, but I got to tell you this quick story. I was pulled over by cops for going too fast in the school zone. So they asked me for my license, my registration. I handed it to them. They went back in the car. Cop comes up to me with my registration and license in hand. He goes, I'm going to leave you off with a warning. The Trump podcast is actually real. It was chilling.
It's like Handmaid's Tale. Everything in this series could come true, but it's so chilling and unthinkable that they keep it packaged in a fictive box.
Let's get to the show. So I got to ask you something that's been hinted at for a few weeks now. It's all over the internet. It's all over the Reddit pages, and constantly you're reading about it when the show is talked about in the press. Our writers and producers positioning the Trump character to expose him to be in quote unquote cognitive decline.
Got a lot of attention when they did it to that Biden character, when they just had him spin out into literal idiocy. But I don't think they're just going to go there. I don't think they're going to do an identical thing. I think it's going to be a unique kind of dementia that turns him into a truly mad leader. But I agree with you completely. We're seeing signs of the crazy.
Is it an overall story arc for season 2? The Trump character has always been eccentric, but there's a difference between being eccentric and going through dementia or having cognitive decline. Sometimes it's hard to tell when the Trump character picks up a banana and thinks it's a phone. You do realize that his character had commissioned some of the most talented engineers to create a phone out of a banana at one point. So when he picks up a banana, he may actually think it's that phone from when he had it designed, or he could be, heading into senility. So it's a very tight rope that they're walking here.
It is. And there is a distinction between eccentricity, like collecting orchids or creating battle scenes on the floor if you're a grown man with toy soldiers, and ordering executions and attempting to strangle your children. And they make that distinction.
Things that the Trump character has done in the past, it also, the way the writers and the producers are handling this is so layered and so well done that it makes you as an audience member question what you're seeing. Remember the series of phone calls he had a few weeks ago, I guess it was earlier in the season, when the Trump character realized he needed someone to quote unquote talk to. He would just call random Thai restaurants, and whoever answered the phone to take the order, he would choose that person as a person to talk to and confide in. They would have one conversation. The person on the other end was often confused, but the Trump character was able to get a lot off of his chest. Remember, he admitted to secret operations where he wanted to have assassinations on foreign leaders. He admitted to numerous adulterous affairs, fathering children, to a person who on the other side of the phone was just had a very simple command of the English language and was just really wanting to take an order. At the same time, you could look back on that and say, oh, that person is clearly senile. They're just calling people randomly to get something off the chest. You never know with this guy. I mean, what instances pop out to you?
You know, his desire to be shot into outer space, his desire to visit the Titanic, his desire to bring unwilling people, hostages, down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench and keep them there and ask them questions. And he's also somebody who loves to tickle people who don't want to be tickled. And this is something that takes up a lot of time. They have to limit the scenes, but it certainly brings home the point of eccentricity, sadism, and oddness.
When you see senility represented in other prestige dramas, like in The Sopranos, when it came to the junior soprano character, I don't think we're going to see that with the Trump character. I think they're going to show it in bigger, broader ways that kind of advertise, hey, America, this is happening in front of your eyes. Maybe they're trying to pull that decline, dementia, senility out from the shadows. Is that something you thought about?
Absolutely. I think they're going to take a page out of the book in the, like you saw with Anthony Hopkins or Christopher Plummer or Julianne Moore in Still Alice. And, you know, this show is not without wanting to make social commentary and be pro-social, proactive, and highlight underserved issues. If sometimes they do it in exciting and dramatic ways.
Let's talk real quick about some of the relationships that the Trump character has had and has right now. As we're heading into this crucial part, we're getting a lot of news about the Putin character that we touched on a lot in season 1. This week it was revealed in a flashback that not only does the Trump character still talk to the Putin character, he also personally sent him COVID tests back when COVID was a real serious issue and tests were very rare to have. He personally sent them to someone who was positioned as his nemesis, who turned out secretly to be his friend. Tell me the essence of this relationship and what you think it holds in the next coming episodes.
Well, I don't want to give it all away, but I do think there's a romantic dimension to it. So I think we're going to start to see cards and flowers and intimate dinners.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. Another relationship I want to talk to you about real quickly here is the J.D. Vance relationship, because a new storyline that kind of was hinted at this week shows you that the Vance character may actually be a Trojan horse who's actually going to replace the Trump character. They've made the Vance character so unlikable, but at the same time, we've talked about this briefly in the past, he can be a younger, smarter, less drug-addled version of Trump. Do you think in a season finale we're going to see a little Julius Caesar, Shakespeare intrigue?
That's very possible. I don't want to give it away, but younger, smarter, and more baby-faced and more pig-eyed, I think, is what people want to see. So yes, you're right.
Okay, keeping on the intrigue topic, before we hit break, I want to ask you if you think the Trump character would ever be, quote unquote, taken out by someone close to him, whether that's replaced, kidnapped, physically harmed. Who would be the person you put your money on to do that? Would it be someone like Don Jr.?
Or Marla Maples, the Marla Maples character. People with reason to hate, certainly all his children, But the relationships with the children are very important to look at. So I think it could be a Menendez brothers situation.
Oh, that's very interesting because the show loves to copy successful formulas from other shows. So that's a great point. Monster is a huge hit for Netflix right now. Let me ask you this before we close out. They started to very subtly bring back this repulsive Stephen Miller character. For a while, I thought it was a CGI character. I thought it was, or Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. It turns out it's a real human. First of all, were you aware of that?
Yes, I thought it was a reptile in human clothes for a long time. It's interesting. I think it was taken away because it was just considered unbelievably over the top, like a sort of Goebbels character.
Also, there are many instances of children being frightened by the Stephen Miller character. And this is very rare, as you know, even though parents have gone on the record saying that not only did they remove their kids from the room while the character was on the screen, they actually took the kids and removed them entirely from the household. They were still frightened via osmosis by this character, this detestful piece of garbage that they invented, the Stephen Miller character.
If you'll notice, most of the sort of Halloween stores that offer a Stephen Miller costume, they all have horns and a tail coming out of the suit. So, there's common knowledge that this is what this character was all about.
All right, when we come back, we're going to answer your questions. That's right, the listener email section, aka Talking Trump Talkback segment when we return. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show. Hello, Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show listeners. Thanks so much for listening and subscribing. We'll get right back with more show in just a minute. But before we do, just wanted to remind some of you that right here on the show at this very moment is an excellent place for a sponsor to run an ad. Just reach out to us on Instagram at American Emperor After Show or by email at AmericanEmperorPod@gmail.com and get your message or product out and associated with this amazing podcast. Hopefully there'll be some space left for you, BetterHelp or ZipRecruiter, because the high-powered sponsors are already claiming their territory. The holidays are upon us and the new year is just around the corner. So what better gift can you think of than this commemorative 2025 Trump sinking boat calendar? Yes, now that amazing day where metaphor morphed into life and people who decried their economic situations, who also owned boats, got too close to each other in a lake in Texas and provoked the wrath of Poseidon, can live forever. Bring in a whole new year with memories of these boats going down. There's February with the SS Tiny Hands. Don't forget May and Ship Hole Countries. And of course, September is Fake Cruise. Dock M up and ring in the new year with the commemorative 2025 Trump sinking boat calendar. All right, welcome back to Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show. I'm with author, director, and pop culture critic Tom Robb. Time now for a segment where we answer questions from you. This is Talking Trump, Talk Back. By the way, if you want to send us a question, hit us up on Instagram at American Emperor After Show. All right, this question is from Amy Howell of Athens, Georgia. She says the Melania character recently came out with a book, but she's never really been featured on the show as much as you would think somebody who's the partner of the lead character is. Why do you think the Melania character really has never been featured on the show in any prominent way? Because I have a theory about this.
I'd like to hear your theory.
From what I've heard from my investigation, and I'm not as plugged in as you are, I'm not on the set as much as you are, but I believe that the actress who plays Melania is not aware that she's actually on the show. And nobody in the orbit of the show, including the Trump character played by Sir Lawrence Davies, told her that she's on the show. So this is a woman who just kind of like shows up. She's very mysterious. She's obviously from another country. She's almost impossible to understand. She's not even an actress. She just kind of walks in and she's on the set and they film her and they've presented to the audience that she has this partnership with the Trump character. But, you know, you'll notice that when they need her, sometimes they'll hire another actress to perform as her and try to make her look like that. My theory, and the theory that's supported on the Reddit pages, is that she doesn't know that she's on the show.
I think that's a very interesting point. And it doesn't contradict my theory, which is that it's a CGI character. It's an AI. It's a robot. And they haven't perfected the sort of humanoid characteristics. So they can only have her stand, sneer, wear clothes, and look inhuman.
Clearly, they haven't perfected her voice either, because at times she's almost indecipherable, and sometimes you can hear what she's saying.
Good evening, New York City. And now, please welcome our next Commander-in-Chief, my husband, President Donald J. Trump.
Right, exactly. And her lips don't match the voice that's coming out from behind her head.
Yeah, they got a number of Razzies for their dubbing ability. As many times as this show has won an Emmy, they have taken a lot of heat for their lack of ability to dub correctly. Our last question here comes to us from Alex Glover of Modesto, California. And he asked this: the show has explored drug use many times through different characters, Don Jr. and cocaine, the Trump character, and Adderall. What other drugs would you like to see explored, and through what characters?
That's very interesting. Speaking of the Stephen Miller, I don't know if you know about Trank, a new sort of toxic drug that leaves people completely insensible. But
yeah, actually, we had some footage of its effects on people, but we're playing over this. Go ahead.
Right. Various hallucinogenics, more ecstasy, some of the more sort of widely used third world drugs that are made from gasoline and various houseplants boiled together. I think meth found its way into the show for a while, and it was too hard to control. I think this is an element that always peps things up, and I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, and do you think that there's going to be a particular character that has it come through, or do you think they're going to go right to the Trump character?
I think it's going to be with the Tim Waltz character.
Oh, interesting.
Who becomes gradually more sinister, less of a good time coach, and more of a sort of needy, sadistic addict.
What an outstanding character arc that would be. I'm going to say methamphetamine. I think they're already kind of doing that through the Musk character. I think we're seeing the effect of maybe like a synthetic version of it where you get the excitement and you're still having the buzz, but you're not necessarily losing teeth. Or maybe because he's a billionaire, he just has, he has a special dentist, who replaces teeth or whatever. So we don't know, but there's definitely some sort of drug issue going on with that character. You see through his high energy level, his ability to not be able to hold a thought in his head, his attention span being very, very short. Maybe I'm wrong about the actual drug, but I think we're going to definitely see some sort of reveal about like what drug that he's experimenting with, and we'll see it through the Trump character's eyes because they'll be close together. All right, stick with us, people. When we come back, we'll close out the show with a couple of predictions for what to look for next week. More Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show when we return. Welcome back, everyone. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show. Right now, before we close out the show, a couple of quick predictions for coming weeks. Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you predict that we'll be seeing in an upcoming episode?
I believe there's going to be a revelation, and I have some inside gossip on this, of a grown child that the Trump character has fathered. And I have a feeling it's going to be played by Ashley Olsen, who I just found out actually has a twin. I didn't realize. I think we're going to see this character, and who knows, with this new twin information, we might see some sort of double trouble. I'm your daughter. No, I'm your daughter.
That would play into the psychosis of the Trump character, too, because he
political parent trap. Yeah.
And also an opportunity maybe to add a little light comedy, too.
And again, another pro-social attempt to address the question of broken families.
Very interesting. And that's so weird that it's kind of a theme for our episode today, because my prediction is a little bit along those lines. There have been a lot of rumors lately about the Trump character having to use a diaper, not being able to control his bodily functions. If you're watching the YouTube version right now, you're seeing the Trump character sitting with two senators during one of the scenes where he's alleged to have evacuated his bowels. We're not going to go sound up on it, but just know we could. The actors who play Senator Cornyn and Feinstein definitely exchange a look. I think, my prediction is, I think the show takes this as an opportunity to be pro-social about men who shit their pants uncontrollably, can't control their bodily functions. And I think that the show uses it to launch a huge pro-social campaign that ends with another branded Trump property, and that property would be an adult diaper.
I think you're exactly right. Incontinence is a national disgrace. I think it's the sort of unspoken tragedy that's in almost every family's life. And so I think it's high time we addressed it.
Yeah, and I believe that issues like mortality rates of mothers get all the headlines, but what about dudes who are pooping in their pants and they're helpless about it?
We're seeing it in television, live television, in films, at press conferences. It's happening all the time. We're seeing it in sports events with players and coaches and fans. So this is something that's happening on an epidemic level.
Yeah, it's a national epidemic is what I was about to say. All right. Well, that's it for this episode, everybody. For Tom Robb, I'm Christopher Lansing. Thanks for joining us, and please check us out and subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, of course. Links are in the show notes. Thanks again, everybody. We look forward to seeing you next time.